I have a question for y'all. Have you ever played a Souls game so much that you start singing it everywhere you go? Yeah, so one of the times this happened to me was right before when the DLC for Elden Ring came out. I was getting my character ready and we took a trip to the countryside of Rio to visit my grandma here in Brazil. And I saw in the fields a bunch of trees, some Brazilian trees called ipê. There's like yellow ipê, pink ipê, white ipê. And when they're not blooming, they just look like regular trees, kind of like this one. But when they are blooming, they turn into this huge flower bouquet of yellow flowers in this case. And seeing them spread out across the fields like that really reminded me of Elden Ring and how you see the Archtrees saplings across the lands between. And yeah, that really got me thinking about just trees in Dark Souls in general, and Bloodborne and Demon Souls and other FromSoft games. So I wanted to make a video today talking about it because I really think there's a lot to be said here. What I wanted to talk about today is how the trees that we see in game, especially the ones that grow from corpses, really represent the health of the world and how it's decaying, one linking of the fire after another. So yeah, let's get into it. I believe the trees in Dark Souls represent the state of the world, the health of the world. So here in Dark Souls 1, in Firelink Shrine, I like to think of 3 generations of Archtrees. You have that one in the back that you go through the Great Hollow. You have that one that goes all the way down to Lost Izalith. And you have this one, which is the same that you find all the way down here in the cemetery. Oh, hello. Yeah, those right here. So what I mean by the state and the health of the world is that life in the Dark Souls universe feeds on souls, right? Feeds on flames. The flames are souls. So as time goes on and as the flame is rekindled again and again and again, we have less and less fire and less souls for life to thrive. And you can even see that in Dark Souls 3, like the smallest soul you can get in Dark Souls 1 gives you 200 souls. And in Dark Souls 3, the fading soul only gives you 50. That was one of the first things I noticed when playing Dark Souls 3 for the first time. So, given that we know that life comes from the flame and that souls are fire, pretty much, it really starts to show how the flame and fire itself feeds life in this world. And I really like plants. I'm a plant parent myself, and once you start paying attention to trees and plants in general, you really notice how they don't care. They just grow, man. Trees don't care. Like, they grow in like a little crack on the floor. They stretch their roots out to find water wherever. Even if you break a branch, you can make a clone out of a plant, you know? My grandma, the same grandma that I was visiting, she gave me a night blooming jasmine clone, and she just gave me a couple of sticks. And I was like, yo, my grandma is crazy. I need to put her in an asylum or something. Because there's no way this little leafless, branchless stick is gonna bloom. And long and behold, I put it on the ground like she told me to do, watered it, and it bloomed. Now I made a bunch of clones from that one clone. So we really see that in Dark Souls 2, you know? Not Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls as well. The trees just find a way to grow. Like you see this big one. I believe the reason why it still has leaves to this day is because it's feeding off the flame in Lost Izalith. But these here in Firelink Shrine, the flame is fading. Even though this bonfire here is boasted up to 20, the flame in Dark Souls 1 is already fading, so it doesn't have life anymore. It doesn't have leaves. It's a dead tree pretty much, just like the one back there. In Dark Souls 2, the world is even more bleak. There's even less fire, there are even less souls, and trees start to feed on the souls of giants, which are still big souls, but they're not as big as the first flame big, you know? And trees just find a way, man. Oh, we don't have the first flame as a life source anymore? Okay, we'll feed on the giant souls. And in Dark Souls 3, one of the first things I noticed when playing for the first time as well is when you pull up to the first boss, there is a huge grave. The biggest grave you see has a huge tree in it, and is also kind of dead like this one because it fed on the soul already. It took it ate the whole soul of whatever giant thing was buried there. And when I was playing through that game, I was doing my normal dex build user strategy of just running through everything. I'm just trying to get to the next fog wall, and after I know where the next boss is, I actually explore the area. And I was running and I was running and I was running, and I left the undead settlement. I passed by that tree dead guy next to the door. I ran past all the villagers. I ran past the Boletarian inspired lady. I ran past the tree with the stealth branches and the giant with the bow shooting at it. It's interesting to think that the giant only shoots that tree. I think it's protecting it for some reason. But anyway, I ran through all that. What made me stop was when I got near the great wood rotten thing boss, and it had flowers. And I was literally running, and it was what made me release, like let go of the run button and actually just walk, because I saw a bunch of flowers. It's like, man, there were no flowers in this game. For the first like part of Dark Souls 3, all you see is ash and those dead trees trying to feed on the souls of the cemetery. But you actually saw some flowers before. And that made me stop, and long and behold, the next boss was pretty much a tree. Cursed tree. So yeah, that really got me thinking on how the trees also feed on souls, on flames in this game. So in Dark Souls 1, you have the trees trying to feed on the flame, but it's so brittle, so small that they can't anymore. Like, you see this one is growing on rock. You know, I really believe this is a descendant of the Archtrees, because it's growing on a rock, but it's trying to get its roots near the flame. And you have the old Archtree, which is already dead, or was never alive. I don't know how to interpret the Age of Ancients. But then you have one descendant of the Archtree that's still alive and growing from the flame of Lost Izalith all the way down there. In Dark Souls 2, they start feeding on the giant souls, because that's the next largest set of souls that they can find. And finally, in Dark Souls 3, you start seeing the trees growing from humans. Right in the beginning of the game, And also in the Ashes of Ariandel DLC, you see those tree people growing in the snow. Those are basically trees just growing on whatever. I don't think it's people turning into trees. I think it's the trees finding resources wherever they can. Trees find a way, man. That's what I'm trying to say. Trees find a way to just grow with whatever they have in any circumstances they have. And I think it's really beautiful how FromSoftware and Miyazaki chose to display that throughout the games, you know? The fire is gone, man. Even when you relink the fire in Dark Souls 3, it's basically a little candle. It's not a huge flame like in Dark Souls 1. So yeah, that's my conclusion. Trees in Dark Souls indicate the health of the world. The world is not healthy in Dark Souls 1. Gwyn really screwed everything up. But as we, as chosen undeads and bearers of the curse and ashen ones, relink the fire over and over and over again, the world just became more and more dry for these trees. And now they have to grow relying on whatever they can. And yeah, I think that's sad, but also beautiful. That's Dark Souls, right? What a beautiful, sad game. So, thank you for watching. I want to make a few shoutouts to other fellow Chosen Undead lore creators that inspire me. Shoutouts to everybody that I'm gonna put on the video description. If you like the song that you heard, this Firelink Shrine lo-fi remix type beat, I actually made that song. I'm a musician, but I wanted to create this channel just for lore videos. I find that sometimes a creator makes a really good lore video, but the community doesn't really stick around to his channel because it's not really the Dark Souls channel, and we are a very passionate community. So I wanted to make this new channel just for Souls lore. I'm starting the channel with 2 videos, this one and one about the Nameless King and how the Hellkite Drake foreshadowed the Nameless King. But if you want to listen to the song in this video and in the other video, I'm gonna post the songs in my other channel, my music/other games channel. So check that out if you want. There's also a video I made modding the voice of Kaf, the primordial serpent. Because I don't know about you, but the first time I played Dark Souls 1, their voices really puzzled me. I was like, yo, you do not sound like how you look, you know? So I made that mod.
I am the primordial serpent, Darkstalker Khan.
Hopefully I actually implement that in the game at some point. And yeah, shoutouts to all your favorite Souls lore creators. I really like this community. I really like the idea of discussing this beautiful game's lore. If you have any thoughts or different ideas on how the trees represent the world or what they mean, let me know. And yeah, thank you for watching, my fellow Chosen Undeads. I'll see you in the Nameless King video and on my other videos as well. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye. And I'll see you next time.